Video game music. Who likes it? I do. As someone who avidly plays video games, it has been something I have looked towards since my earliest days of childhood, all the way back to when I was 4 years old and got my first Wii. Around when COVID started, I really began to take a deeper dive into just what makes video game music so special. Since I had so much time on my hands, I decided to revisit some of the many classics of my childhood, such as Minecraft, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Smash Bros, etc. and so on. Now, you might argue, David, this isn't learning anything. The video game music is just about nostalgia from your childhood, combined with catchy rhythm and repeating level design that makes it so iconic. And yes, you intrepid viewer, it is that. But I feel there is more. I've always known a lot about music. I mean, look at my collection. I made you just watch all of that. Well, anyway, and there's an incredibly valid reason for me to owning all of these. They're good. All of them are phenomenal, well-crafted, nostalgic but modern representation of gaming. From the 16-bit Mario Bros to the lulling tunes of Minecraft, you got a feeling of warmth and satisfaction just thinking about the songs in your past. And so I decided to figure out why you get that warmth. What actually makes a song so good, and what factors make video game music so special compared to any other genre. I decided to turn to the most reliable source on the web, the ChatGPT. ChatGPT. There we go. For what the combined intellect of the internet can offer. And yeah, its answers were pretty on point. It went over nostalgia, catchy composition, social impact, immersion, the obvious topics. All true topics, all with nearly flawless descriptions, but still not the answer I was looking for. Because after reading all of this, I noticed it was missing what possibly may be one of the most important factors of all video games. Legacy. Legacy and experimentation. Two incredibly vital words left out of the AI's response. A song can be catchy, it can be iconic, well-made, environmentally fit, but if it's just not some random game you never even heard of before, chances are that song isn't going to sweep you off your feet like something from a series of famous games. Let's take, for example, Nintendo. Nintendo has a legacy, an excellent one for making family-friendly games, high quality, and it's just consistent along the whole way. Plus, most of the series are over 30 years old, so you got icons like Mario, Kirby, I think, Legend of Zelda, huge titles with huge success. And when a new title comes out, my first thought is, holy crap, new Nintendo game! And my second is, I wonder what the new soundtrack is going to be. It's that second thought, which normally precedes the first so quickly. That is the first thing I truly learned. I had to look at every game and series I could think of and think, alright, well, okay, what makes each of these series so iconic for their music? And its legacy. I nitpicked through every Mario game with a stellar soundtrack, and you know what I found? The same songs from the very beginning, from good old Super Mario Bros. 1, still show up in one of the most modern of games. Nintendo and other corporations don't just scrap their music. They find ways to incorporate, evolve, and utilize their musical motifs into new songs. Almost like a homage. Not homage. An homage. There we go. Many games that have such stellar legacies probably have a reference to their earliest works somewhere in their music. Boom! Take that, ChatGPT. That's 1 point for this guy. But seriously, listen to these two pieces, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. As fans, they not only support our nostalgia of earlier games in the series, but they help build upon the legacy those games bring us through the decades. Okay, So we learned about how legacy is one of the factors in making video game music so catchy. Whether it's one series referencing another, or just a line of games decades apart building upon their success. Let's tackle the next thing that AI couldn't wrap its matrix-sized brain around. Experimentation. An article by Kotaku discussing with 8 video game composers about what makes an iconic soundtrack. The repeating themes tend to be freedom, expression, and experimentation. Expression is actually another really good point that ChatGPT didn't mention. I don't really need to learn about how expression makes a good soundtrack. Expression is just part of a good soundtrack. Regardless, experimentation is something we as players probably never think about. When you hear a good song, your first thought isn't, "Oh wow, this is so wacky and crazy. I wonder how many attempts it took to make this." It's more like, "Huh, this is pretty good." And you move on with life. But this still wasn't enough. I needed something more. So I turned to my best friend Edward, someone who's been playing music for over a decade and has mastered multiple instruments. Along with that, someone whose opinion I firmly respect when it comes to musical composition. I asked him the question, what makes video game music so catchy and memorable? And although his response isn't exactly as factual as I might have hoped, he did bring up points I hadn't considered in music selection, and points that not even ChatGPT could consider.
Why is video game music so catchy and so good? Now, what makes music good can't really be answered, I suppose. It could be repeating patterns that we find nice in our ears, or it could be resolution within a scale. But that depends on the person, I'll say. Now, why do they have to make video game music good? I can probably explain that. If a video game has bad music, that's going to be a very unenjoyable game to play. Now, when companies make video games, they want them to sell, obviously, and they want people to like their games, so they trust that company and buy more games from them in the future. Now, when I'm playing, let's say, like Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm running around, let me paint you a picture here. David, please fade the video to black for me. Open on a still frame of Zelda, open world. Now let's say you're journeying through this beautiful kingdom. Grass is green, the sky is green, and the link is green. Now, if you're running through this thick atmosphere and a song comes on, let's say, I don't know, off the top of my head, Orange Tesla. Let's say Orange Tesla comes on while you're running around. I'm not gonna wanna play that game anymore, because my ears are probably bleeding. David, please play, let's say Orange Tesla is playing, play that over the scenery of Zelda, please. That would be great. When I hear Orange Tesla, I would like to rip my ears off and never listen to music again and never play this Zelda again, because I cannot deal with a game, no matter how good it is, if Orange Tesla is playing on repeat the whole time.
Ed brings up another really good point here. Genre. Genre is something that you find in all music. You have it in pop, you have it in rock, you have like alt rock, you have pop rock. But still, within every grouping of a title of a music, you have subgenres underneath that. And those subgenres can be what really make or break your entire music experience. So with most cases, with really catchy songs, their genre of music fits their level design. In the same way, if you're at a rock concert, like a real rock concert, and they start playing something really poppy, like California Girls, and you're grunging out, you're yeah, and they start putting on California Girls, you're like, what? Why? But if you are playing a game that is intense, fighting, Mortal Kombat, and you got some epic music in the background, you're gonna remember that. You're gonna remember, wow, this really made me feel alive. This fit the genre, fit the game. And that's another great thing that ChatGPT could not think of.
Music really adds another big layer of enjoyability to a game. Video games need good music to help sell the product. When the music is good, it makes you have more fond memories of the game. And then on top of selling the game, if the music's really good, they can sell the soundtrack. And like maybe you'll buy like 500 CDs or vinyls, like someone I know. If if the music isn't good, you're not gonna have very fond memories of the game. If the music is just okay, that's not the best, but if the music's bad, you're gonna have bad memories of the game. And when I'm playing Donkey Kong 64 and I boot up the game to the DK wrap, I am now invested in that game. I'm going to play that game for 100 hours and beat the entire thing because the music is so good. When I'm journeying through Donkey Kong 64 and they have the funny that's a good song. See, because I even know I have the little scale goes up and down and it resolutionates right on that note. And it's funny because it's like monkey sounds too. Geniuses write that.
He is right, though. Geniuses do write that kind of stuff. And it ties back into experimentation. If you ever thought about writing a song with monkey noises, that's probably not your first thought. You might think of a more sensical instrument other than obviously, it's not top pick. But that's what makes video game music so unique compared to everything else, is that video game music can tie in things that no other genre can think of. And players will eat it up. They get to experience that new experience, exactly that, the new experience. And that's what makes it so special. That's another factor into why it's so catchy, is because it isn't uniform. It's experimental in every aspect of the word. Most of it is. I wouldn't say all of it. But those great songs, those truly unique songs, they are experimental. They are things that, like Edward said, they remember. They remember the scale, the pitch, because it's simple, yet it's good.
Well, I think the music is good personally because most video game music is like upbeat and intense. I really like music like that. It's loud, sometimes a bit brash, but you know, it's enjoyable. Music like Cuphead, those songs are like real jazz players playing the songs. It's really in-depth thinking. Of course, with any good songs, you need a bunch of good composers. That's how companies usually do it. They get a lot of good musical minds to help make it. Live players, sometimes like Undertale, you have like the Just Sound board and stuff like that. Back in the 8-bit days, they didn't have a lot of very complex sound chips, so they had to keep it very simple, like the original Mario Brothers song. That's a very catchy and simple song, but it works so well and like a bunch of people know it today, probably because it's just very simple and iconic.
And there's my final point. Iconic. Much like Legacy, an icon is something that you look at and it's inspiring. It's something there to always be there. And video game music is just iconic. It is its own genre. Before the 1980s, video game music probably wasn't what most people thought about. But as it has developed, like every other genre, like rap, like rock, it has become something that people recognize and they associate positive memories with. It is an icon in the music industry, much like video games are an icon in the entertainment industry. Like, they remember their favorite song from when they were 12 years old that played on the radio. You remember your favorite video game song when you first booted up that console and it turned on and you're like, oh, this is bliss. That is another reason. Iconicness is another fundamental backbone to why video game music is so catchy and so memorable. So you have experimentation, which is the unpredictableness that makes it, so that when you hear it for the first time, you're like, huh, wow, I didn't expect that. You have legacy, a series of games, and the use and repetitiveness, not in rhythm, but repetitiveness in the songs, so that as you continue through the games, you continue to hear the same music that you remember from your childhood. So yes, it is a bit of nostalgia, but also it is building upon what nostalgia already is giving you. And finally, you have iconicness, and it's the physical representation of what that music is and how you perceive it and how you translate it in your mind when you think about video game music. And that's what I learned. I learned that A, robots are not successful in everything. B, all those things there, you probably learned them too. And C, it's good to ask another person. Edward might have stated his opinion, but that opinion opened up more valid points than I thought originally. And that is why video game music is so catchy. It's just a part of it. Obviously, you can say anything is catchy to a degree, but video game music specifically is catchier than most.